Yeah, so we're at the last weekend or the last weekend of Super Rugby for the regular season. I think the top four teams have completely made it into the finals. I think there's still a difference between the Jaguares and the Brumbies. If the Jaguares lose and the Brumbies win, then the Brumbies finish on second spot, but I don't see that happening. So I think the top four teams are going to finish the way that they finish, and that would be, if it was the proper way of doing it, it would be the Crusaders, Hurricanes, Jaguares, Brumbies. But because of the conference system, we've got one more year left of it, and then it's gone. We've got the Crusaders, the Jaguares, the Brumbies, and then the Hurricanes. Look, the Hurricanes could lose to the Blues this weekend, but I don't see that happening. And well, that could happen. And then the Jaguares would overtake them. So yeah, so it's been a really interesting season. Been very, very close. We're at the last weekend, and I think there's still 8 teams that are vying for the last 4 spots, that's impressive. We haven't had a Super Rugby season like that in donkey's years. So I'm super happy that Super Rugby has started improving. The players started improving. I'm a bit concerned about next year, especially with the player drain that's happening across all the nations. I see a lot of the big stars are moving on, but yeah, I think there are plans in motion to try to create the depth, especially in South Africa. So yeah, let's just worry about this season, and then we can take it from there. So for the weekend, I've locked these scores into my Super Brew, so there's nothing I can do about it. First game of the weekend, we've got the Highlanders versus the Waratahs. The Waratahs aren't putting on a full strength side because there's no point. They're not putting any of their Wallabies. They're not going to risk any of their players. I see the Highlanders winning this fairly comfortably. I've still put them only to win by 7. But yeah, I've put the Highlanders to win. I think at home they might just be a bit too strong, and if the Waratahs aren't going to bring their full A game, then I put it to the Highlanders. Then we've got the Rebels versus the Chiefs. This is probably it's a must-win game for both of them. If the Rebels win, they stay in the competition. If the Chiefs win, then they could potentially knock the Rebels out. So yeah, I still think I've put the Chiefs by 9. I wasn't very impressed with the Rebels side last week. You can say whatever you want. Maybe the Crusaders were the perfect storm, but yeah, the Rebels side just didn't pitch up on the day. So yeah, I've put the Chiefs to win by 9. But it would be nice to have another Australian side in the playoffs. But yeah, I just see the Chiefs and the Highlanders going ahead of them. Next game of the weekend, we've got the Jaguares versus the Sunwolves playing in Buenos Aires. I'm sure that the Jaguares are going to rest some of their big players, but I still think they've got too much firepower across the park against the Sunwolves, and I've put them to win by 17 points. Next game, which I think is going to be a real humdinger of a battle, a real derby. We've got the Hurricanes versus the Blues. Nothing in it for the Hurricanes, nothing in it for the Blues. The Blues can't get the 300 bonus points and make it into the finals, to the knockouts. But I still think the Hurricanes are going to win by 8 points. I know the Blues are going to be up for it, but I just don't see it happening. I really, really don't, especially away from home. The Blues have been absolutely atrocious away from home. But I have to say, I have been a lot more impressed with the Blues this year than previous years. I think they're on the right track. I know they're losing some of their big players next year, but I think they're on the right track. I think they're getting the right kind of culture there at the Blues, and I'm sure in the next 2-3 years they're going to be up there again as a force in Super Rugby. Next game of the weekend, we've got the Brumbies versus the Reds. I've put the Brumbies to win by 11. I just don't see the Reds beating the Brumbies at home. Such a structured side like the Brumbies, they really can suck the life out of a game. But that's how they win. And great, good on them, but I've still put the Brumbies to win by 11 points. I think they're going to be just too good for the Reds. The Reds are a few years also out from where they should. A couple more years and the Reds will be back up there. Next game, we've got first of the local derbies for South Africa. We've got the Stormers versus the Sharks. I've put the Sharks to win by 7. The reason being is that generally, and I've watched a lot of Currie Cup and I've watched a lot of rugby, and generally the Sharks win in Newlands and the Stormers win at Kings Park. It's just the way it happens. The away team seems to win, but I think it's going to be a serious humdinger of a battle because the winner of that game will stay in the knockouts. But yeah, they could end up in this. I think in 6th spot. I've actually written it down here where they would be, where they would play. My permutations might be a little bit wrong, but they might be spot on. But yeah, I see the Sharks winning that game by 7. I think it's going to be an extremely physical battle. Final game of the weekend, we've got the Bulls versus the Lions. I don't know who's going to win that one. Come on, guys, it's going to be the Bulls. The Bulls are going to win by 6 points. The reason why I've said it's 6 points, because I think the Lions are going to get their bonus point for their loss. I think they're going to be within 7 points. And they're going to obviously end up staying in the competition just ahead of everybody else. I was trying to work on the maths, and it looks like if all those permutations happen, obviously we'll have the Crusaders, Jaguares, Brumbies and Hurricanes in the top spots. And then it will be the Bulls, Sharks, Chiefs, Highlanders. I just have a good feeling that the Chiefs and the Highlanders, I think at least one more New Zealand side is going to make it into the knockouts. I really do think that's going to happen. If the Chiefs and the Highlanders lose, yeah, then there'll be 3 South African sides and another Australian side. It's just the way that it's happened. That's the way this competition's been structured. So then it would mean that if it went according to my plan, the Highlanders would be playing the Crusaders, the Chiefs would be playing the Jaguares, the Sharks would be playing the Brumbies, and the Bulls would be playing the Hurricanes. So yeah, I think it's going to be super interesting coming up. But yeah, I think that's how it's going to end up. 4 New Zealand sides making the knockouts, 2 South African sides, an Argentinian side, and an Australian side, which I think is fairly fair from where the competition is. But yeah, it all depends. If the Highlanders don't beat the Waratahs, then they don't make it. If the Chiefs don't beat the Rebels, they don't make it. So yeah, there's a lot to play for in this last weekend. But yeah, I've just got to say one more time, I have been very impressed with Super Rugby this year. Normally, I watch. For me, the most exciting rugby, a franchise or club level, is probably Premiership rugby. It's probably the closest of all the rugby that we get to watch. I'm not saying it's the same kind of rugby as Super Rugby. It's not as expansive, it's a little bit more structured, but it's a lot closer. You just never know who's going to win on the day, and the top team can lose to the bottom place team. So it's all over the place, and that's what makes Premiership rugby for me quite exciting. Even Pro 14 is not as exciting. Yes, the top teams are very good, and when they play each other, it's excellent. But when they start playing the bottom teams, like a Leinster versus Kings or something like that, then it's not the greatest showcase of rugby. But slowly, surely, I think there's becoming a bit more like versus like in Super Rugby. The dropping of the 3 sides was a masterstroke. I think dropping another side is good for the game. Is good for Super Rugby. It's not. I would have liked to have kept the Sunwolves. I think they brought something different to the competition. But yeah, I don't see it dropping further than that. I think Super Rugby's going to stop at Super 14, and it's going to stay at that level. I think that's when we had the most exciting rugby in the past. I think 12 to 14 is probably the right place to be. It allows enough New Zealand sides to come through with the 5, enough South Africans, and enough Australian sides. But maybe later on down the line we might drop another African or Australian side and bring in another Argentinian side, or maybe a Pacific Island side. It could be quite exciting. It's just about how much money is available for each club. But yeah, I see that this has probably been a really, really good season of Super Rugby. I think it's going to drop off a little bit next year because our stars are going to be going, but that's going to come down to the coaching and how it gets coached. These younger stars that are going to be coming through. But listen, guys, I'm going to put down my predictions down below. Please put your predictions down. I really appreciate feedback from everyone. I really like to see what other people are thinking, and really question me on what I'm saying. And if you think I'm talking rubbish, tell me I'm talking rubbish, because then we can have a conversation. We can come up with a solution. But yeah, all I can say is go Bulls. Have a great weekend, guys. Chat soon. Bye.